The morning rain tapped against the tall windows of Harborview Cafe as Aaliyah Carter wiped down tables for the third time in an hour. Her deep brown skin glistened faintly under the warm cafe lights, her thick curls tucked into a messy bun, and her navy apron carried faint coffee stains as proof of long hours. At 25, her rich brown eyes had the weight of someone who had been forced to carry more than her share of life's burdens. Her phone buzzed again. Another reminder about her mother's hospital bills lighting up the screen. The chemotherapy treatments were draining every cent she earned from her 2 jobs. By day, she worked at the cafe, and at night, she cleaned offices, barely keeping them afloat, but refusing to let her mother go without care. Table 6 needs their check, shouted Mr. Daniels, the gruff manager who always seemed to enjoy making her life harder. Forcing a polite smile, she grabbed her receipt pad and moved toward a sharply dressed businessman, but something outside the rain-streaked window froze her in place. In the alley behind the cafe, 2 men in black suits were dragging something heavy toward a black van. At first, she thought it might be a bag, but her heart sank when she realized it was a man. His clothes were bloodied, and he wasn't moving. Her breath caught as one of the men pulled out a gun and checked the body. She gasped loud enough for a few customers to glance her way. Double quotes, "Miss, my check," the businessman asked impatiently. But Aaliyah's eyes stayed locked on the men in the alley. They were scanning the area now. Then one of them pointed directly toward the cafe window and locked eyes with her. Cold fear shot through her as the man nudged his partner and both started walking toward the cafe entrance. Aaliyah dropped her receipt pad and moved quickly toward the back of the cafe. "I am taking my break," she called, not waiting for approval, as she yanked off her apron and pushed through the back exit. The alley was empty now, the van gone, leaving only a dark stain on the concrete. Footsteps sounded behind her, heavy and closing in. Aaliyah's sneakers splashed through puddles as she ran toward the main street. Ahead, the Royal Meridian Hotel stood like a golden refuge, its polished entrance promising safety among the wealthy guests streaming in and out. She darted through the revolving doors, stepping into a world of marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and tailored suits, and didn't slow until she crashed into someone stepping out of the hotel bar. Aaliyah stumbled back from the impact, but strong arms caught her before she could fall. She looked up into the deepest brown eyes she had ever seen. The man was tall, his skin a rich bronze tone, his perfectly tailored charcoal suit fitting him like it was made just for him. His short fade was neat, and the shine of his luxury watch caught the light from the crystal chandelier. "Are you okay?" His voice was calm and warm, yet carried the kind of authority that made her pause. Behind them, Aaliyah spotted the 2 men from the alley stepping through the revolving doors, scanning the grand lobby like predators. Her heart thudded. "My husband," she blurted, gripping the stranger's arm. His brow arched slightly. "Excuse me." "Please," she whispered quickly, her eyes darting toward the men who were closing in. "Just play along. I'm in trouble." Something in her desperate expression must have convinced him, because his arm immediately slipped around her waist, pulling her close as he turned toward the lobby crowd. "There you are," he said in a voice loud enough for the 2 men to hear. "I was wondering where you disappeared to, darling." The men froze mid-search when they saw her wrapped in the arms of a man who clearly belonged to this wealthy world. They exchanged a look and began backing away, unwilling to cause a scene in such an upscale venue. "Thank you," Aaliyah breathed softly, feeling the expensive scent of his cologne surround her. "Don't thank me yet," he murmured in her ear. "I think you just stepped into more than you realize." Confused, she looked up at him, but his attention was focused somewhere over her shoulder. She followed his gaze to see 3 more men in suits entering the lobby, all scanning the crowd. "Friends of yours?" she asked in a low voice. "Not exactly. I'm Malik Hamilton." His smile was sharp, charming, and laced with something dangerous. "And it seems, Mrs. Hamilton, you've just become my wife at a very interesting time." Still holding her close, Malik guided her toward the elevators. His movements were casual, confident, like a man who had been in dangerous situations before. "Going on," she whispered, her voice tight with fear. "We're both being hunted by people who don't like hearing the word no." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and Malik ushered her inside. As the doors closed, Aaliyah caught a glimpse of both groups of men moving through the lobby with frustrated expressions. She didn't know how she'd ended up pretending to be married to a stranger, but deep in her chest, she had a feeling her life had just changed forever. The elevator rose quickly, the soft hum of its movement the only sound between them. Aaliyah gripped the railing, still catching her breath, while Malik stood calm, his broad shoulders relaxed, his sharp eyes alert. When the doors opened at the top floor, she stepped into a hallway lined with rich wood paneling and modern artwork. Malik led her with steady steps toward the far end. "What exactly did I just walk into?" she asked, her voice low. He glanced at her, a slight smirk tugging at his lips. "That depends. What exactly did you see back at that cafe?" Aaliyah hesitated. "Two men dragging someone. There was blood. And they saw me watching." Malik's expression hardened. "Then you're right, you are in trouble." They reached a set of grand double doors, and Malik swiped a keycard. The doors opened into a penthouse suite that looked like it belonged in a luxury magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city skyline, while sleek furniture filled the space in elegant arrangement. "You live here?" she asked, stepping inside in awe. "I own this hotel," Malik replied casually as he set his jacket aside. "It's one of many investments." Aaliyah turned to him, stunned. "You're serious?" He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter, the calmness in his movements almost at odds with the danger she felt pressing in. "Dead serious. And so are the people after us." "Us?" The word made her heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" "After us?" she asked. Malik looked at her directly, his deep brown eyes intense. "Because you were seen with me, and because you saw something you weren't supposed to." Her stomach tightened. "Who are these men?" "They work for Vincent Cross," Malik said, setting his glass down. "A man who doesn't take no for an answer, whether it's a deal, a company, or a life." Aaliyah felt the weight of his words. "And what does he want from you?" "My company, Hamilton Technologies. We develop financial market software. 3 days ago, I discovered my business partner sold us out to Cross. When I refused to hand over what he wanted, things got violent." The seriousness in his voice made the truth sink in. This wasn't just about a random act of kindness in a hotel lobby. She had stepped into a storm much bigger than she imagined. Malik's voice softened slightly. "Which means, Mrs. Hamilton, our little act has just become a dangerous reality, and the safest place for you right now is with me." Aaliyah stood by the massive windows of the penthouse, her eyes drifting over the glittering city below. Everything about the moment felt surreal. Just that morning, she was cleaning tables. Now, she was standing in a billionaire suite, hiding from dangerous men. Malik moved across the room with the same composed confidence he had shown from the moment she collided with him. He tapped a message into his phone before setting it down. "We can't stay here long," he said, his tone controlled. "Cross has eyes everywhere. The moment they realize I'm at the hotel, they'll close in." Aaliyah turned to face him, her brows drawing together. "What happens to me? I can't just disappear. I have a life. My mother's in the hospital. I have bills. I can't leave everything behind." Malik stepped closer, his presence commanding. Yet warm. "I'll take care of it. Whatever your mother needs, treatment, specialists, private care, she have it." She shook her head instinctively. "I can't let you do that. You don't even know me." He met her gaze without hesitation. "You saved me today, Aaliyah, whether you meant to or not. You gave me cover when I needed it most. Let me save you in return." The sincerity in his voice sent an unfamiliar warmth through her chest. Malik poured a second drink, but instead of handing it to her, he placed it on the table and sat on the couch, motioning for her to join him. She sat hesitantly, still processing everything. "You need to understand something," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Cross doesn't give up. Once he marks someone as a threat, he'll keep coming. The only way to keep you safe is to get you somewhere he can't reach you." Where is that? She asked quietly. My private island near the Bahamas, off the grid. No cell towers, no trackers, no way for Cross to find us. Her breath caught at the absurdity of the words, but something about Malik's unshakable confidence made it feel possible. When do we leave? She asked after a moment of silence. Malik's lips curved into a faint smile. Tonight, pack light. We move before sunrise. The roar of the jet engines was a low hum beneath the soft luxury of the cabin. Aaliyah sat in a cream leather seat, her fingers brushing against the cool glass of the window as the city lights fell away below. She had never been on a plane before, let alone one like this. Across from her, Malik typed on a sleek laptop, his focus sharp, the glow of the screen reflecting in his deep brown eyes. He closed it with precision and set it aside before moving to sit next to her. Where are we going exactly? She asked, still in disbelief. To my private island, he said, his tone smooth and certain. Completely off the grid. Cross can't track us there. Aaliyah glanced down at the tailored outfit she now wore, designer clothes Malik had somehow managed to get for her in the short time it took to leave the hotel. It felt like stepping into someone else's life, one she never imagined she'd be living. She hesitated before speaking. Tell me more about this Cross. Malik's jaw tightened slightly. Vincent Cross runs legitimate businesses on the surface, but underneath, he controls one of the largest criminal networks on the East Coast. Money laundering, blackmail, and worse. My former business partner owed him gambling debts. Instead of paying with money, he offered something more valuable, my company. Aaliyah's brows furrowed. Your company? My technology, Malik said, his voice steady. We developed an algorithm that can predict stock market shifts with incredible accuracy. In the wrong hands, it could manipulate entire economies. When I refused to hand it over, Cross decided to take a more direct approach. She studied him for a moment, the reality of the danger settling in. How long have you been running from him? 6 months, he admitted. Safe houses, different names, always moving. Until yesterday, I was doing it alone. His eyes softened when they met hers. Now, it's different. Something in his tone sent a ripple through her chest. She looked out the window, but her mind wasn't on the view any more, it was on him. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Mr. Hamilton, we'll be landing in 20 minutes. Aaliyah's pulse quickened. She had no idea what awaited her on that island, but she knew one thing for certain: her life would never be the same. The island was more beautiful than Aaliyah could have imagined. White sand curved around crystal blue water, and tall palm trees swayed gently in the warm breeze. The house itself was a masterpiece of wood and glass, designed to blend with the landscape while offering sweeping views of the ocean. Paradise, Aaliyah said softly as she stepped onto the stone pathway. It's home, at least for now, Malik replied, carrying their bags inside. The days that followed felt like stepping into another world. In the mornings, they cooked breakfast together in the gourmet kitchen. Afternoons were spent swimming in the infinity pool or walking along the beach, the sound of the waves becoming the background to every conversation. At night, they sat on the deck, watching the sun sink below the horizon, the sky painted in deep gold and fiery orange dot, despite the danger that had brought them here. Aaliyah found herself feeling safe in a way she hadn't in years. Malik, beneath his billionaire exterior, was warm, quick to laugh, and surprisingly down-to-earth. One evening, as they sat side by side on the outdoor sofa, Malik leaned back, his gaze on the horizon. If someone had told me 2 weeks ago I'd be hiding out on an island with the woman of my dreams, I wouldn't have believed them. Her heart skipped at his words. Woman of your dreams. He turned to her, his deep brown eyes steady. From the moment you ran into me in that hotel lobby, you've been all I can think about. His hand lifted, cupping her cheek gently. I know the situation is crazy, but what I feel for you is real, Aaliyah. She felt her breath catch, her pulse quickening at the honesty in his voice. I feel it too. I've never felt anything like this before. He leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that started tender but deepened quickly. the fear and loneliness of the past days dissolving in the warmth between them. When they finally pulled apart, the quiet around them felt charged, as if the island itself recognized what had just changed between them. For the first time in a long time, Aaliyah felt hope, real, tangible hope. The peaceful rhythm of the island broke with the distant thump of helicopter blades. Aaliyah's head turned sharply toward the sound, her chest tightening. Malik was already on his feet, his gaze narrowing as a black, unmarked helicopter swept into view, circling low over the water. "That's not one of mine," he said, his voice hardening. The helicopter descended toward the beach, the wind from its rotors whipping through the palm trees. 6 men in tactical gear spilled out, weapons visible even at a distance. "How did they find us?" Aaliyah asked, fear rising in her throat. "Cross has resources I underestimated." Malik's tone was clipped as he moved quickly inside, heading straight for a hidden panel in the wall. He pulled out a black duffel bag, unzipping it to reveal a handgun, extra magazines, and a few essentials. "We need to get to the boat now." They sprinted across the deck, the pounding of boots and the sharp crack of breaking glass behind them, signaling that the intruders had reached the house. Malik led her toward the private dock where a sleek speedboat waited. Halfway down the dock, the sharp sound of gunfire split the air. Bullets struck the wooden planks just feet from Aaliyah's shoes, splintering wood into the air. "Stay low," Malik shouted, pulling her behind a piling for cover. He returned fire with steady precision, buying them precious seconds. "Can you swim?" he asked, over the chaos. "Not far enough to reach another island," she answered. "Then the boat." "It is. On my count, we run." His deep brown eyes locked on hers. 3, 2, 1, go. They dashed toward the boat as bullets cut through the air. Malik threw Aaliyah on board and jumped in after her, immediately firing up the engines. The roar of the twin motors drowned out everything else as the boat shot forward, cutting through the waves. On the beach behind them, the men kept firing, but the distance grew quickly. Aaliyah gripped the side of the boat, her heart racing. "Where are we going?" "Miami," Malik replied, his hands steady on the wheel. "I have allies there, people who can help us disappear permanently." The island shrank behind them, the life they had built, there fading into the horizon. Glanced at Malik's determined profile, the wind whipping at his shirt. Whatever dangers lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: she wasn't turning back. The Miami skyline shimmered in the distance, the fading sun painting the sky in warm shades of gold and pink. Malik guided the speedboat into a secluded slip. At the far end of the marina, away from prying eyes, Aaliyah's legs felt unsteady as he helped her onto the dock. She still hadn't shaken the sound of gunfire echoing in her mind. But every mile between them and Cross's men felt like a small victory. "My friend James owns a yacht repair business here," Malik explained as they walked toward a weathered building by the water. "We went to college together. He's the one person in Miami I trust completely." The door opened before they could knock. James Mitchell, a tall man with warm brown skin and graying hair, stepped out with a wide smile that quickly shifted into concern. "Malik, you look like hell," he said, gripping his old friend's shoulder. "It's been a long few days," Malik replied. "James, meet Aaliyah Carter." "Aaliyah, this is the man who's going to help us vanish for good." James shook her hand firmly. "Any friend of Malik's is family here. Let's get you both inside before anyone notices." The office was small, but comfortable, decorated with model ships and the faint scent of salt air drifting through the open windows. James poured them both coffee as he spoke. "Cross's people have been asking around the city. They know you're here, Malik. I'd say you've got maybe a day before they close in." Malik's jaw tightened. "Then we work fast. New IDs, transportation, whatever you can pull together." James glanced between them, a flicker of concern in his eyes. "Is she worth risking your life for, old friend?" Malik didn't hesitate. "She's worth everything." The certainty in his voice sent a rush of heat through Aaliyah's chest. She looked at him, her pulse quickening, realizing just how deep this connection had grown in such a short time. James nodded. Then we make sure you both live to see tomorrow. They spent the next hour planning. James made calls, arranging contacts who could help, but time was short. The danger felt closer with every passing minute. Night had settled over Miami, the city lights glowing against the dark water. Malik stood on the deck of James's boat, staring out at the horizon, his shoulders tense. Aaliyah stepped up beside him, sensing something was wrong. He exhaled slowly. Cross reached out. He wants to make a deal. Aaliyah's chest tightened. What kind of deal? He'll let you go if I turn myself over to him, along with the algorithm. Malik's voice was controlled, but there was a dangerous edge. Beneath it, he knows exactly how to hurt me. Her voice came out fierce. No, absolutely not. I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself for me. Before he could respond, James burst onto the deck, his expression grim. We have a problem. Cross just took someone important to you, Aaliyah. Her blood ran cold. What do you mean? Your roommate, Aaliyah Matthews. His men grabbed her from your apartment an hour ago. He's using her as bait. He wants you at his warehouse on the docks tomorrow night, alone or she dies. Aaliyah's mind reeled. Aaliyah was her best friend since childhood, the sister she'd never had. The thought of her in Cross's hands made her stomach twist. I'm going, she said immediately. Like hell you are, Malik shot back, his voice sharp. Cross will kill you both the moment he has what he wants. Then what do we do? Let her die because of me. Aaliyah's voice cracked, desperation seeping in. Malik's hands closed around hers, his eyes steady. We'll figure something out. I'm not letting him hurt either of you. That night, Aaliyah couldn't sleep. She stood on the deck, watching the city lights dance across the dark water. Malik found her just before dawn. His voice low as he stepped behind her. My life was all work before I met you. Empty deals, endless money, nothing that mattered. You changed that, Aaliyah. You made me remember what it feels like to live. She leaned back against his chest. You saved me too from a life where I felt invisible. He turned her gently, his eyes catching the soft morning light. You matter more than any company or fortune. Then, without hesitation, he dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring that glimmered like captured fire. Aaliyah Carter, will you marry me for real this time? Her breath caught, tears filling her eyes. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, kissed her softly, and whispered, Let's go save Aaliyah and end this with Cross once and for all. The warehouse district was quiet, the heavy air thick with the smell of rust and salt from the nearby docks. Malik parked their car a block away from Cross's location, his eyes scanning the dark streets. Remember the plan, he said as he checked the small communication device James had given them. I go in first, keep cross-talking, James. We'll move into position with the police. Aaliyah nodded, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. Detective Torres said her team will be here in 20 minutes. We just have to hold him until then. I love you, Mrs. Hamilton, Malik said, using her real married name for the first time. Her heart tightened. I love you too, Mr. Hamilton. Inside, the warehouse Cross was waiting. His silver hair gleamed under the dim overhead light, his cold eyes fixed on her as she stepped forward. Aaliyah was tied to a chair beside him, conscious but terrified. Aaliyah cried, her voice shaking. I'm here, Aaliyah said, stopping 20 feet away. Let her go. I came just like you wanted. Cross's lips curved in a cold smile. Where's your billionaire husband? He's not coming. This is between us. I don't think so, Cross replied, pulling a gun and pointing it at Aaliyah. Hamilton humiliated me by refusing my offer. I want him and the algorithm, or I take something he cares about. A voice echoed from the shadows. The only thing humiliating here is a man who hides behind threats. Cross spun, gun searching for the source. Show yourself, Hamilton. Let them go first. Malik's voice came, calm but sharp. I don't negotiate with people who cost me millions. Cross's finger tightened on the trigger. That's when the chaos broke. James tackled Cross from the side, the gun firing harmlessly into a metal container. Malik burst from his hiding spot, running straight to untie Aaliyah. Cross recovered fast, pulling a second weapon and aiming at Aaliyah's heart, stopped. Without thinking, she grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and swung it at Cross's arm just as he fired. The shot went wide, and Cross howled in pain. "Police, freeze!" Detective Torres's voice thundered as armed officers poured in from both sides. In moments, Cross and his men were disarmed and taken into custody. Aaliyah was freed, checked by paramedics, and pulled Aaliyah into a trembling hug. "It's over," Malik said, wrapping Aaliyah in his arms as the last police car left. "Cross is finished. He's going to prison for a long time." Months later, Aaliyah stood in her mother's hospital room, tears of joy in her eyes. The cancer was in remission, thanks to the best care Malik had arranged. Her mother smiled, holding her hand. "Are you happy, baby?" Aaliyah looked out into the hallway where Malik stood, speaking with the doctor. He caught her eye and winked, just like that first day in the hotel. "Happier than I ever dreamed possible," she said softly. That evening, she and Malik walked along the beach behind their new home in the Hamptons. The sun was setting, waves rolling gently against the shore. "Any regrets?" Malik asked, their hands linked. Aaliyah smiled, looking out at the endless horizon. "Just one. That it took danger and chaos for us to meet. Imagine how much sooner we could have found each other." Malik laughed, his deep voice carrying over the water. "Nothing about us was ever going to be normal." "Good," she said, leaning in to kiss him. "Normal is overrated anyway." As the sky burned in shades of gold and orange, Aaliyah thought about the moment everything changed, grabbing a stranger and claiming him as her husband. She never imagined she'd found her real husband that day. Sometimes, love began in the most desperate moments. And sometimes, it turned out to be the most beautiful thing of all.